Hi, this is Shadi, and today we're gonna be trying to answer the complicated question: was Jigoro Kano skilled on the ground? Now, when it comes to the Newaza and particularly developing Newaza, Jigoro Kano was not playing a big part. And also, if you read the stories or if you heard the stories that I've told, Jigoro Kano seems like he was somewhat opposed to them. For example, when the whole 1899 leg lock thing happened with Yuji Hiruka, he was the first to call out and ban the use of leg locks in competition. Also, when he had his feud with Tsunetane Oda, he was very much displeased with someone really developing Newaza and going really deep into the Newaza route. And from a MMA slash BJJ viewpoint, or if you put on the BJJ or MMA glasses and see Jigoro Kano, doing these things, he was kind of a bit, it might seem that he's been portrayed in a bad light when it comes to ground fighting. But let's dive a little bit deeper into this and see whether he was. So we're gonna do in this video three things. The first one being go through a little bit of his jujitsu background and see what kind of newaza or ground grappling skills that he had, and two, address both incidents. The first one being that calling for the ban of leg locks, which was in 1899 and then carried on into the 1920s, that were officially banned for good till this day, and I don't see them returning anytime soon. And finally, addressed his arguments that he had during the whole Tsunetane Oda fiasco, and really dive deep into the situation and try to go for the little details and see whether he had a point, yes or no. So I think why do I want to address his arguments? It's simply because of was he afraid or was he weak in Newaza that he wanted to limit it or ban it, or did he have legitimate arguments? So without any further ado, let's go into his jujitsu background, and that is first the Tenshin Shinyo Ryu jujitsu scrolls. So the first one here you see is a dojime, which can come from the closed guard, which is a body lock that squeezes on the rib cage and really suffocates someone, and it was banned in 1916 due to the internal damage that it may cause. But nonetheless, guard play was somewhat existent back in those days. This is from 1830, I believe, so it can either come from a closed guard or a body lock, triangle, or scissors from the back. So the guard play was very similar to what I've shown in the Yukyotani book. Was in case you got thrown, this is where you try to do guard, and close guard was one of those very safe options to keep someone in control. So the notion of the guard obviously existed in the Jigoro Kano days, the do osai, to really prevent someone from getting past you and getting osaikomi, which is big in judo. The other thing is that in Tenshin Shinyo Ryu, submissions were also a very big thing. This is also from the same scrolls. I'll leave a link in the description for you to check them out. So here you see getting on the ground and getting a submission, possibly from a throw or from the guard or from a ground scramble altogether, was probably a very prevalent. Here you see a different types of osaikomi, different types of control. So they obviously studied leverage and how to control someone from whatever situation it may come. The osaikomi here is another variation of the side control. So if you obviously studied these types of variations and leverage, etc., you have probably also trained how to escape osaikomi, because it's a big part of jujitsu game. So you don't want to lose by the pin, so you obviously trained how to escape them as well. So scrambling on the ground was something that he did, and mastering the osaikomi as well. Here you see the hadaka jime, the rear naked choke. So obviously his arsenal was rich when it comes to newaza submissions. Here you see him performing an okuri erejime, one of my favorite chokes in the gi. So also as well here you see him performing a Juji Gatame, the armbar, controlling the head, controlling the arm, and you know, getting a very good solid form in the tucks. He looks very badass. So obviously he is very well versed in Newaza, controlling someone at the same time. I believe this is what they call in BJJ the 100 kilo position. I'm not sure. So here you see him performing chokes, Kensetsu, and also Osaikomi, Waza. So was he weak? I don't think so. He was very skilled in all the Osaikomi, Kensetsu, and Shimiwaza, and he practiced them religiously from the Tenshin Shinyo days, even before the Kodokan days. So let's address the Oda situation. So now we know that he was not weak whatsoever in Newaza, and he was very well versed. So what happened in the Tsunetane Oda situation? Well, it was 1918. Tsunetane Oda had his team. He wanted to defeat the Tokyo High School team of judo, and the Tokyo High School was a lot like the Kodokan in Tokyo, not the Kyoto branch of very well versed in Newaza. So what he did was he went a very extreme route of dedicating his students to only Newaza, so no kata, no throwing, no komikata, grab fighting, just strict Newaza, no self-defense, nothing like Tokyo branch. And back then the rules were not as much as today, so a lot of the students did pretty much what they wanted, except for Ashigarami, which is a submission, because that it was banned 2 years earlier in 1916, and also Dojime, the submission I showed earlier. So pretty much everything else they could do besides striking. So pulling guard was one of those things that were permitted, and what those Oda students did was just not engage in stand-up whatsoever. Nothing. The match would start, they would either sit down or pull guard, and they won by a very big margin, and Jigoro Kano was just absolutely pissed off, and he was outraged, and he said that in self-defense situations you would get hit in the face, and also he called them cowards for not engaging in the stand-up. So here you see Oda, for example, doing a figure 4 back mount from back and choking. So what I was saying, so let's address these arguments. First of all, not engaging in the stand-up and pulling guard. Till this day, people are still making jokes and memes about BJJ not pulling guards, learn your takedowns, etc. So not engaging is somewhat, yes, cowardly. So imagine if pulling guard was not allowed in that competition. I would assure you that those Oda guys would have gotten smashed, or the results would not have been as drastic as they were, because there was literally no stand-up. The other thing that I want to discuss is the self-defense, and yes, you would get smashed in the face. So imagine if Abru or Cyborg was able to use fists in the, you know, against Gordon Ryan, and Gordon Ryan was going for that also famous inside position, he would have gotten killed, no doubt. 100%. So pulling guard in MMA or going for leg locks like this one here, for example, you can get your knee crushed or go for a figure 4 toe hold. So obviously his arguments are very much I would say 100% accurate, grappling wise and self-defense wise. Now there was no strikes, so obviously that did not pay a lot of importance. So finally, let's talk about leg locks. He was very much against them. Here you see like some Mifune leg locks or Ashigarami, etc. So what happened? So in 1899, Yuji Hiruka got his leg broken by Matayama Tanabe with the Ashigarami, and he called for the ban of leg locks. Before I address his arguments, back then, over 120 years ago, there was no ACL surgeries, so that was probably the wisest thing to think of, and the most ethical thing to suggest is the ban of leg locks. Now, let's talk about it competitively. Did Jigoro Kano ban it because he was afraid of leg locks? Well, he was afraid for the safety of his practitioners and the people practicing judo. But was he particularly afraid of leg locks or didn't know leg locks well? No. You see, This happened in 1899, so 17 years prior, the Kodokan was established, and leg locks were just a normal part until injuries started to become prevalent, and getting your legs broken and surgeries back then were not a thing. He knew leg locks as well, because he himself, when orchestrating the katas alongside with his students, particularly the katame no kata, has the ashi garami. So ashi garami is the last technique in the katame no kata. Here you see it. So he obviously knew leg locks, but he was very well aware of their dangers, and also from a self-defense standpoint, you cannot do this in self-defense. And also, how do you say this? Think about it for just a second. What's the highest scoring submissions in, even till this day, in UFC? It's not leg locks. Do leg locks play a role? Yes, but arguably the best ones are chokes from the back and arm locks, and till this day there are still kings. Back is king, and also arm locks. Look at Khabib. Does he go for leg locks? Even competitively, do you really need them? The best thing, or the least you can do, is just learn how to defend them in case someone comes at you with leg locks. But competitively, do you need them? No, you can just wreak a lot of havoc on someone by learning just upper body submissions. The second thing is self-defense. Do you absolutely need leg locks? Well, it can be dangerous going for them. The type of your aggressor, their body type. Is he taller? Can he reach you with his hands? Can he pull your hair while going for a leg lock? Remember, this is not the mats. Also, they can strike you. And two, you have far less control when doing leg locks than putting them inside control or mount, or an arm and head and arm like kata gatame. You can see them better. You have more access to their hands in order to block them with stuff like ude garami or juji gatame or omoplata, rather than just really focusing on their legs and tangling your own legs with them, and they can reach you or whatever, or they can cut you if they're holding something. So do you absolutely need leg locks for self-defense? No. Is it better to be far more versed in upper body submissions and upper body pins? Yes. So when it comes to safety and being good in self-defense and a better citizens, really or like a far more concerned grappler with the safety of others, even especially back then with like the medical evolution, it's better to not have leg locks. He wasn't saying cowards or no leg locks because he himself was weak, or he himself was insecure, or he himself was just not versed in newaza and leg locks. He very much knew leg locks, from to add ashigarame to katame no kata, and also he himself, you see him from the Tenshin Shinyo Ryu days and the demonstrations, doing submissions and controls and pins, stuff that were very much practiced even before the Kodokan. So there's no evidence that he himself was weak. The arguments I would say that he did were very much sound in my opinion. So if you have anything else to add, let me know down below. Also, consider supporting me on Patreon. I have a lot of I have content that's exclusive for the patrons only. So if you are interested in supporting me, please let me know down below. This was Shadi, and thank you for listening.